savage. He's a real searcher.
What's he searching for?
The ride. The ultimate ride. Guy's even crazier than you, Johnny.
Hi, I'm Sophie, and I haven't seen a lot of movies.
Hi, I'm Paul, and I'm here to help with that. And we are
SP Film Viewers.
So as we said last episode, we've got a special guest joining us this episode. And it is Em from Verbal Diorama. I'm sure she'll say, but it's all about the history and legacy of movies you know and movies you don't. She is a big fan of Keanu Reeves.
Okay,
So I feel like, well, I was only justified to get a film
We're watching The Matrix then.
that... No, we're not watching The Matrix again. Or Matrix Reloaded, or...
What else is Keanu Reeves in?
Well-
That train thing that we watched.
You're thinking of Speed.
Oh, yes, I
The
am.
bus. The
Yes.
bus that couldn't slow down.
And is he not in some rom-coms?
Yeah, well, I think you'd know more than...
I feel like
me on
he
that.
is, but I can't off the top
Yeah.
of my head.
Mm. And John Wick, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Most recently, yeah.
Yeah. But we are going to be talking about a film from 1991. It's called Point Break.
Never heard of it.
Okay, I was going to say, have you heard of it? But it also stars Patrick Swayze as well.
Ooh. I don't think I've seen Patrick Swayze in anything apart from Dirty Dancing.
Have you not? No?
No.
Hmm.
But he obviously is a better actor than Baby.
No, by far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got hips like Swayze, as The Weeknd would say.
Yeah, well.
Okay, I'm excited already. Tell
Okay.
me. What's it about?
So it's an action
Oh,
film,
okay.
thriller, let's say.
Okay.
And it is about an FBI agent who goes undercover to catch a gang of surfers who may be bank robbers.
Sorry, what? How are they going to steal the money on the surfboards? What do you mean?
I don't think of them like going riding on with bags of money going.
That's what you pretty much said.
Just the culture of being surfers, not necessarily meaning that they're on surfboards swimming away. Let's load this safe on it and just
like, why would a surfer be stealing? Like a pirate, I get, because he's got a ship.
It's probably tickled you, hasn't it?
It's the way you said it, or the way you read it. It just
Well, that's
made-
what I'm reading the IMDb
Well, they're not making it very clear.
synopsis there because I thought the other one was a bit more, gave a bit too much away, but this is like
That's not
gotta
giving
be-
enough. So now I just think people are just like totally red and they're like on the surfboard, like bumping
surf's
the
up, bro.
waves. Oh. It's like the little safe on behind. I don't know.
No, it's nothing like that.
Who's the surfer and who's the FBI or?
Patrick Swayze is one of the surfers in question.
He's bad.
Sorry if I gave that away, but
No, it's not a bad thing. I feel like out of both of them, who would play a better surfer would be Patrick, to be fair.
what about bad guy as well?
Yeah. Don't really think I've seen Keanu in anything bad. He's always
As in
goodie.
being a bad role or just a bad guy?
A bad guy. I just don't, I feel like he's always been played as a good guy.
Right. Well, should be interesting to revisit this. I have not seen it in a good while, actually. But
Okay. I'm really intrigued to
Mhm.
see how they're portrayed as surfers and if they are going surfboarding.
the only thing you may recall very, very vaguely is they touch upon it in Hot Fuzz when they're watching Point Break or Bad Boys 2.
Oh, okay.
And then, yeah, But
Yeah,
again,
that's really not going to.
you might do when you see a particular scene
Okay.
at the end, but we'll see. Yeah.
Well, it'd be interesting to have a guest, especially a female,
Mhm.
on. So I'm excited.
Yep. So next time you hear from us, we'll be joined by a special guest to talk about Point Break.
Let me tell you what you've produced. Over the last 2 weeks, you two have produced exactly squat! Squat! During which time, the ex-presidents have robbed 2 more banks! Now, for Christ's sake, does either one of you have anything even remotely interesting to tell me?
Caught my first tube this morning, sir.
And we are back, having watched Point Break, and we're not alone, so we're joined by a very special guest. I'd like to welcome Em from Verbal Diorama. Hello.
Hello. Oh, Point Break is fun, isn't it? I'm very much looking forward to talking about this movie.
I feel like that's been the most excited guest we've
Yeah.
had on. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
I'm always very excited to talk about movies just generally, but I'm super excited to talk about this movie because this is a special movie. I love it. Thank you so much for having me as well. It's really cool.
Oh, no, you're very much welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join the podcast. I know you're quite busy with your own very popular and very good podcast, may I say. So so obviously the privilege is still ours just to have you join us.
That's really sweet. I wouldn't say massively popular or anything, but it's all right. It is okay.
So before we get into the episode, then obviously, would you like to give yourself a little shout out and where people can find you?
Sure. So I host the podcast Verbal Diorama. It is a film history podcast. So I love to basically look into the history and legacy of movies. Movies are some of my favourite things in the entire world. As you can imagine, as it's clearly coming across, I'm very enthusiastic about movies. There's not many movies out there that I don't find something to enjoy about. But generally, I'm just a film history nerd. I love the making of movies. I love talking about the making of movies. This movie is a fascinating movie to talk about, just generally from a film history point of view. It's a great movie. I love it. But yeah, obviously, if anyone's interested in a little bit of film history, I've not done an episode on Point Break, actually. It is on my list. So I will do it eventually. But I haven't yet got round to it. But there are over 250 other episodes that I have done on various other movies. And yeah, always with a bit of a positive spin as well. Because making movies is tough. It's really difficult. And we should be celebrating movies for their flaws, for their imperfections, and sometimes for guys taking lots of showers and being in the rain and being in the surf and being very wet. That's
say that,
always
yeah.
worth celebrating.
Absolutely, yeah. So, could you remember the first time you've watched this film, Em? Like your history with the film itself. Like, when was the first? Like, oh my god, this is like really like this is really special.
So, this film obviously came out early 90s.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have seen it then because I probably would have been a bit too young. But I probably saw it. I'm going to say I probably saw it in like the mid 2000s kind of era because I was watching a lot of movies around that time. And I don't think it was a movie that I fell in love with instantly, which I know sounds a bit weird, but my taste in movies has changed quite a lot sort of since I was much younger. I appreciate movies like this a lot more now than I did kind of back then. And it's a love affair that I think has kind of grown a lot over time because it's a movie that I think I kind of looked at it initially and just kind of saw, oh, handsome men, this is great. But I think, and obviously I still do think that, but there's a lot more to it than that. I think there's a lot of layers to this movie. I mean, when you've got Patrick Swayze in a movie and you've got Keanu Reeves in a movie, I mean, that is just going to appeal. It just is. But
Yeah.
I would certainly say this is a movie for me that I have loved more and more as time has gone on, especially the fact that this is one of the very rare female directed action movies that is it's kind of more aimed at men, really. It's a very kind of manly movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And yet it's very much filmed in the female gaze, which I love. so yeah, this is a movie that I think it only grows as time goes on with how much I love it and how much I respect it, just for the general kind of making of it. I think the action scenes are terrific. The surfing and the skydiving scenes are amazing. So yeah, it's something that now I own on DVD because I've had to buy it on DVD. Now
Yes,
I own
same.
it.
Yeah.
I will watch it again and again.
So obviously, just on the topic of that DVD thing, I've got a copy here that I got from eBay because it's like, all right, okay, trying to source it online. It's like nowhere to be found on streaming. Like, why not? I feel like this is a popular film enough to have on streaming, but like no existence of it. And then like trying to source out even a Blu-ray was like a struggle. So it's like, okay, guess it's DVD quality then.
Yeah.
Which is a bit sad. But I know there is a 4K, but I think it's only just come out in the States, and so that's a bit pricey for import costs and everything, and getting it in time would be, even if I wanted it, would be, a bit of a stretch. So it's like, okay. But now coming back to the film after a while since I've seen it, and I feel like I got more appreciation for it because, or in the sense of what action films of the early 90s going into 2000s, I suppose, was I feel like more superior to how the stories came across, how they were told, and sort of like with the characters as well, you felt more for them than in these ones that are kind of, every other week there's an action film that's dropped onto Netflix and it's quench people's thirst for a bit of action, but it doesn't really have anything to say that's not new or anything like that. And it doesn't feel like it's made an impact. Whereas something like this is obviously, I feel like, stood the test of time, and people do still enjoy the film. And I don't know if you feel the same way, Soph, about that.
So this is the first time I've seen this film, and obviously I know Keanu Reeves. I obviously know Patrick Swayze. I mean, why wouldn't I? And I absolutely love them both in everything that I've seen. I don't feel like they've actually touched anything really that's been like, oh, I've hated a film that I've seen them in. First of all, you side with both of them. Like, you do really like both characters, and how it progresses, you kind of don't want Swayze's character to be bad. Like, you just don't want that. And I even was taken on a bit of a little roller coaster with me, thinking it's not going to be him. He's so chilled, he's so relaxed, such a man of the earth. It's never going to be him. So I was like, it's definitely those ones that you just predict, and it's going to be like a predictable film that just kind of goes throughout. Like a bit of an action that you would know exactly kind of the plot, but it's not. And even though somewhat deep down, it's Swayze's character, you still don't want to believe it's true. And I think that's what I enjoyed about the film, because like you're saying, some actions, for me, action isn't my favourite genre. I think I grew up a lot with that when I was little, and I don't know, I think I'm really good with like dialogue, but this film has that as well. It has a story. It's not just like it's blowing up things and there's a bit of a fight scene. There is an actual story line within it as well, which makes you more
torn
intrigued.
between the two and everything like that.
Yeah, you
It's his job, and he's like, oh no, but he's I've really grown to know him as a friend and everything like that, and I really like this,
his lifestyle, his morals,
his
like how the waves and the sea, like how he perceives everything, like is quite a hippie kind of natural character. You wouldn't think then the next minute is going and robbing a full-blown bank. But yet again, the way that he's robbing the bank, they never shoot anybody, they never kill anybody, they're just in and out in 15 minutes or something like that?
9 minutes as well. Is it 9 minutes?
I think it's like 90 seconds. I think it's like really...
that's it, yeah.
I just want to be in and out, because the point is that
Yeah.
they don't go to the vault, because the vault is the vault will take longer and then they'll get caught.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like 90 seconds in and out.
And I think that shows they're just there for the money. They're just there for basically, I think they only do a couple of hits as well, don't they, a year? And that's kind of then lasts them the whole year, basically. So it's kind of like their way of getting income. So then they can have a good summer, go surfing, and then hibernate through the winter, kind
Essentially,
of,
yeah,
so to
yeah.
speak, where they can just then go somewhere else after the fact. I think it also is really good how we've got Keanu Reeves' character, because he's fresh baby FBI, isn't he? He's the new kid on the block. And you all know how that feels when you're starting a job and you want to prove your worth and that you're good enough. And yet again, he gets put with somebody who's been a little bit senior, who's been there a while, seen the ropes, and it's like, there's no point in going after this case. You're just wasting your time. And I think within this kind of film, you've got standards that you think, oh yeah, we've seen this before. But actually their relationship grows quite nicely to an aspect where they become friends at the end of it. And you can see that help of growth for Keanu Reeves' character. And I think that's what I enjoy when I watch a film, is if you can see a growth within a character's development. And I think that's key to like the storytelling within it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of see that because obviously, like you say, Bodhi's character, he's very kind of earth child, very kind of hippie. He's basically only really robbing banks to have a bit of money, but also to kind of stick it to the man, to stick it to capitalism and all of that, and these, big banks and, billionaires and all of that. And in a way, like you say, you can kind of empathize with Bodhi in a sense of he's not doing it maliciously. He's just doing it because that's kind of the way that they live their life. They're all about the surf. They're all about like being one with nature. But you can see like Bodhi has this effect on Johnny, Keanu Reeves' character. So like at the end of the movie, Johnny is still surfing. Like he's kind of stepping away from that kind of serious life, the life that he had before. And, he's still obviously on the trail of Bodhi, but it's like the idea of like him and Bodhi together completely changes his life and changes his perspective on life and makes him realize that there's more to life than, being, quote, young, dumb and full of cum, that's
Yeah.
because, that's how they describe him in the bit, because he is so like fresh faced and,
Yeah.
and all of that. But yeah, the idea that, like you say, you've got this growth of character for like both Bodhi and Johnny, but especially Johnny, because I think he learns a lot from Bodhi about just life in general and how you should just appreciate life in general.
Definitely. And I think as you get a little bit older, when you're very young, you want to impress everything. You want everything immediately. And you don't really value just going to the seaside, having a nice relaxing day. You feel like you just need to be getting everything done at a certain time. And like now when we go on a walk or something like that, you can stop, you look, and you slow down a bit. You appreciate actually where you are and what your surroundings are. And I think that you can kind of relate to Johnny's character as you get older, you kind of do understand that it's not all about, oh, I need the best house, I need the best everything. Actually, it's your loved ones around you, your family, and everything like that matters. Because we obviously get, what's the love interest that we've got?
What's she called now?
Is it Tyler?
Tyler, yeah. So you kind of like smitten with her from the get-go, really, and then it's like trying to play it as if like, I want to like hang out with you to surf, and she's like, oh yeah, whatever, yeah, you just there's more ulterior motive here, but then eventually kind of love does blossom from that, really, and then by the end of it, he's absolutely like, no, because she's like been taken hostage, and like she means a great deal to me. Please, like, don't hurt her and everything like that. It's like he'll do absolutely anything to get to her, and so the stakes are high for him. And us watching, like, no, please don't let anything happen to her, because you actually do feel like there's a threat or a worry for her to survive, because it could go either way for a lot of characters. Even Gary Busey's cop character, and he gets off near the end as well, and you're thinking, oh no, like you kind of feel sad for Johnny at that point, because again, it's somebody he's kind of had a relationship with this whole time, and obviously they've bickered and stuff all the way through about like what's best course of action with stuff, but it still meant a lot, and you feel for that character, you grow to appreciate that character. Whereas in some of these modern action films, and like, oh, someone's died, well, you don't really care because you don't really know much about him, and so that's what I think that the strength within a film like this does, and I think it's, I say, the characters are written in a way that you do care about them, which is important, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're more emotionally invested. I think that's the way I see it. You are. And I think, like you said, for Johnny, I forgot the guy's name now that died, but he was like his dad figure in the FBI, basically. That was how you kind of saw it. Eventually he did take him under his wing, and he taught him the ways of it. But also Johnny taught him. So it was like a bit of a learning curve for both of them, because he was like giving that fire back to him, saying, actually, no, we can do this. We can actually solve this case if we want to, instead of being submissive and going, oh, it's never going to be achievable. So, yeah. Can we talk about the eye candy? Because, I mean, there is so much in this. And and I feel like there's been plenty of times Paul's had his eye candy. Like, we watched Poor Things, and Paul loves Emma Stone, and we had a guest on that one, and it was very male orientated. So I feel like this is my time.
Shine.
Yeah. Let's do this, Soph. Let's do
it. So I don't know which one I actually prefer. I think obviously initially I saw Patrick Swayze with long hair, and I was a little bit like, I'm not sure if I like it on the front cover, because it looks a bit obviously shaggy and everything. But, actually throughout it, I did love it in the end. Like, I'm not going to complain. The surfing as well, like, I don't know how much he actually fully did himself, so if you do know him, but I am very impressed with however they did do
the
it.
Stunts and
yeah. But the wetsuits, I mean.
I mean, I can tell you, Patrick Swayze, because obviously Patrick Swayze is no longer with us, but when he was, so he was quite an established skydiver. But the studio wouldn't actually allow him to do much of the skydiving, because it obviously you've got to have quite a lot of stunt performers. But he did do quite a lot of the surfing himself, and I think he cracked several ribs as well doing it. So he was quite committed to the surf, which is quite cool, because that's kind of a very Bodhi thing to do, to just like, no, I just want to get out there and I just want to do it, like I just want to be one with the waves, But I think they did have some stunt performers for the final scene, the 50-year wave, that huge kind of Australian one. So I think they used stunt performers for that, but otherwise they were just kind of getting out there, because I think Kathryn Bigalow wanted it to look as authentic as possible. So like she was out there like on a paddleboard, like filming these guys like surfing. So yeah, I think we can safely say Patrick Swayze did a lot of his own surfing, and it shows, because what a body. I mean,
exactly. Like the first time you see like Bodhi like kind of enter the screen, like you've got this massive wave that's coming over him, and the actual cinematography, and actually how you even
to
think
actually
about filming
in that is like, oh god, like how close you have to be, like, oh no, there's something coming at me. It's like
and the movement to come backwards as well, and I don't
resistance
even...
of must have been a hard time to actually film some of those.
But amazing. Like he comes across so cool, collective, like that wave's going over him, he's going through really smoothly, not falling, got really good core strength, clearly. His hair's not even wet at this point because he's that chill, and it's just like, oh, okay, we know that this character has got the presence. It's kind of sucked you in already, that you're like, this must be Patrick Swayze's character coming on the screen. And you kind of even see Johnny's character, Keanu Reeves, like looking in awe of him a little bit, like, this is a person that's amazing, and he kind of idolizes him in a sense.
And why would you not? I mean, I think we can safely say that the homoeroticism in this movie is like top level. There is a love story in this movie, but I don't think Tyler's anywhere near it. I think it's basically Bodhi and Johnny. It is a proper love story between them, because Johnny is like, I love this man. I don't want harm to come to this man. He like has the opportunity to shoot Bodhi, and he doesn't. And Papa says like his mentor says later, he was like, you don't miss when you shoot. And Johnny's like, I missed. And he was like, yeah, but you don't miss. So even he knows that like he could have hit him, but he didn't. And I just, the love between the two of them is just so palpable in this movie, and it's almost a little bit like, yeah, why would you not? Like, if you had the choice to like fall madly in love with one of these men, I mean,
Yeah.
you just would. It's just like they are gorgeous, and I love that the very first shots that we get of Keanu, who is obviously a regular fixture on my podcast, the very first shots that we get of him is him in the soaking wet rain.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's perfect. It's just the best introduction, and it's basically like, you know, this foreboding kind of the fact we know he's going to be getting very wet later on in the movie, but it's just like the fact that he's in the rain and he's shooting a gun. It's very masculine. Like, it's a very masculine looking thing, but it's also shot so much in the female gaze because it's all slow motion. Like,
Yep.
I love how Kathryn Bigalow directs this movie. I really do. I think if this movie had been directed by a man, it would be so different. I think it would be exactly what you said before, Paul. I think it would be lots of explosions.
Over the top, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because obviously there are beautiful women in this movie, but the women are very sidelined. Like, you get obviously Tyler. She's not very hypersexualized in this movie. You've got a couple of naked women, you know, in the drug bust scene, kind of, you know, the FBI scene. But otherwise, it's very focused on these men and these men's sexuality and their presence and the kind of raw masculine energy that these men kind of exude. But it's mostly Bodhi, let's be honest. But, you know, the both of them are very kind of, you know, sexy guys. But the way that it's shot, it's very much shot by a woman. A man could not shoot this movie the way Kathryn Bigalow shoots this movie. It would be totally different.
It would. And it, even like, for example, when Johnny's character is being in the water and he's going into like having a bit of a shower, you know, on the beach, and then you've got like a fight scene coming out and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. It's still kind of got that presence of a sex appeal within it, even though they're fighting at this moment and they're being like, you've got an action-packed bit. It's completely different yet again to how you would have a normal action-packed if it was directed by a male. It's just the way that a female would be like, oh, actually, if we saw that from afar, we'd be very, very impressed, like with how he's kind of taken on 4 guys. And then obviously Bodhi's character comes in like a hero.
Yeah.
I feel like for Bodhi, he's a bit of an anti-hero for me. I don't actually hate him. And I think Johnny feels that same thing throughout. And I think they kind of have a bit of a love-hate relationship. Like, I think Johnny is a bit infatuated because Bodhi has consumed him even to the very end when he's aged, to the point of where he has to kind of capture him just so that he can know that he's no longer have to be part of the FBI. But you can see like that's time has passed in that time, but it's still been niggling him at the back of his mind.
The whole year, and the fact that he remembered to he's escaped, but I know exactly where he'll be in a year's time because he mentioned this key point, like about the wave in Australia, the big one, and and so that again, it's sort of that's she wants at the end. I think it's raining at the end of that shot as well, isn't it? So it's like obviously because of the storm and everything. So it starts off with a rainy scene and ends with also being wet at the end of that. So we watched a film not too long ago called Blue Steel. I think that's the one with Jamie Lee Curtis in. And now again, like that was an action cop film, and
we did.
And I said the approach to that was, I feel like, again, sort of different from what a male's perspective of an action film would be. I think, let me see what year that came out. 1989. So it was Kathryn. Yeah, it was a couple of years before Point Break came out, and so that again, sort of like the way that was put together as well. That was quite a different approach, as I say. We didn't find that as impactful as what this was, but I don't know if that's because...
I think that was more the storyline, I think, because with that one, she was an FBI agent, but then she had this... She was quite a loner character, I feel, and she had the criminal kind of she fell in love with him in a relationship, but it was, at the end, very much more heavily action-packed, wasn't it? I would say. More that
There's a big shootout at the end.
I think she more hated him to a point of where I think she actually shot him and kind of despised him. It wasn't like a bromance or love romance like Bodhi and Johnny's character, where they weren't there long enough in a relationship to actually care, whereas I think this built up quite a bit more. I would definitely recommend Point Break over it, to be honest.
Yeah. There's a lot more appeal with that, and not just in obviously the two leads and everything. There's a lot. So that the cinematography we mentioned before about how that really is really effective with how it comes across in a way that the scope of like how amazing like the forces of nature are really with how to approach within their lives, and how it kind of almost like in a way I suppose consuming them both in a way. Obviously like Bodhi is like obviously he lives for like riding the waves and everything, and that's all it's like feels like a connection with nature in that sense. And Johnny is becoming more engrossed in it from obviously meeting Tyler and also Bodhi at the same time, and then kind of like becoming more lenient with like rather than sticking to like how he is in his day to day being an FBI agent, kind of loosening up a little bit really.
Well, I do think it's quite funny because he brings his surfboard into his workplace because he can't obviously shut his car boot, and the boss is like, "Why is this in here?" Oh, completely forgot to say the boss,
Dr. Cox
from Scrubs. I got so excited about that.
It's
when
like,
I
oh my
saw
god,
it.
it's like pointing at the thing here. Oh my god.
But he still feels like the same kind of character from Scrubs. Like he's still the yelling at them, putting them in their place.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it absolutely filled my heart with joy when he was on screen as well, because his presence is just brilliant. So you have got quite a lot of top heavy guys really that are well known, big cast, but at the same time, still Johnny and Bodhi take the main leads. Like that they are your main men. It's
Yeah, it feels very intimate in that respect. Like it feels like it feels like an intimate love story in a way between these two men, and like there's two men from like different backgrounds, different situations. I don't think people talk enough about the fact that Johnny is supposed to be undercover FBI in this. He's supposed to be infiltrating this surfing community, and yet he still uses his real name, which seems a bit bizarre. Like, because Johnny Utah does sound like a made-up name, but when he infiltrates the surfer dudes, and Bodhi's, when they're playing football on the beach, and Bodhi says, "Oh, do you not know who this guy is?" And you kind of think, "Oh no, maybe he knows that like he's FBI."
From that
and
point,
it's like, "Oh no, he's like a quarterback," and like it turned out that he was like had a really promising career as a quarterback. So like maybe he couldn't kind of have a fake identity for that reason. But it did seem a bit silly that it would be easy for them to figure out that he's FBI, but then maybe because it's the early 90s, you wouldn't have the internet, you wouldn't be able to like look someone up. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it with like a modern lens, but it just seems a bit silly because if you're going to be undercover, surely you'd have an undercover identity.
Yeah, I guess I don't know about that actually, but
it doesn't work though in the context of them knowing that he's a football star and all of that.
But
so
there is a remake of this film, isn't there?
There is.
I don't know if you've have you ever seen it or
no?
Or
I would not.
No.
I would not taint my vision watching that.
I thought not,
No.
but I just with what you're just saying about the fact that obviously like with whether it's set in a modern time and where that someone could like look up, let's see who Johnny Utah is or anything like that. Would it work or?
I mean, from what I've heard of that remake, it does not work at all. I have no. The thing is, it's like some remakes are worth watching because you think, oh well, it's viewing this with a modern lens might make it better. Like maybe it's gender swapped, so you've got like a different dynamic. So some remakes I think are very worth it. The Point Break remake, I'm sorry, I'm sure there's people listening who've seen it and maybe they really love it, but to me it's not something that I would ever hunt out and watch because the original is so perfect that why? It's not going to have Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves in it, so what's the point? I mean,
That's what you're there for, isn't it, really?
100%.
Exactly, that's all I want.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting actually because we watched it with my mum because she absolutely loves anything action films, like she adores them. And recently we watched, was it The Beekeeper? Fairly
yeah,
new.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
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 And I thought, oh, my mum will love that. It's got Jason Statham in it and a bit of eye candy there. She'll be away with it. And her view was, after watching Point Break and The Beekeeper, she was like, no brainer. Point Break is completely a better film. And I think sometimes I've noticed, maybe it's because I'm a little bit older, I don't know, I feel like the technology and everything like that can really spoil an action-packed film to the point of where it was so predictable was Beekeeper that you just knew every little beat. And you just, I don't know, you weren't gelling with the characters as much.
That's what I've been saying about.
And I think with this, it's, if it was done more modernised, you're right, straight away they would know that Johnny is an FBI agent. They'd find out. And it just, I don't know, I feel like you'd lose your story. Because I think the fact that they're wanting you to be one with nature, you don't have a mobile phone, you don't have the internet, you don't have all these things that you just have instantly now. You can get information too, and I think that's
you're not filming it on TikTok for a reel, like, or something going, oh, look at this sick wave, bro. Kind of.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this film more relatable because he's wanting to be one with the wave. Whereas if you're filming it or you're on TikTok or you're doing whatever, you're not, are you? Because you're constantly on your phone. He can't do that if he's in the sea enjoying himself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what somewhat has a little bit of a hidden moral behind it and a meaning behind it. Even though it's like you said, it's got layers, like Shrek would say. It's an onion. What else is there to pick up? How...
With the, obviously, like the skydiving is another aspect. It's not just the whole doing the surfing stuff as well. That's quite impressive. I personally I'm not great with heights, so I would never. You'd have to pay me a lot of money to jump out of a plane, even if it was to do that. And it's like, oh, it's going to be totally safe. You'll be fine. But no, you have to. No, I can't. I wouldn't want to do that. I'm sure there's probably like adrenaline junkies who actually get a kick out of that, but.
If I were with Bodhi, I'd be convinced, like, he would look after
Hold
me.
Yeah,
I'd be fine.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point about Bodhi, isn't it? Is that I think he could convince anyone to do anything because he's so kind of free in his own mind. Like his spirit is free. Like he's not constrained by having a 9-to-5 job and having commitments and all of that sort of stuff. He's just kind of free spirit. So I think it's very easy to see how someone could be swayed by a character like Bodhi. And I think that having Patrick Swayze play Bodhi, when you know that he's a charming guy, like he's charismatic, he's good looking, it makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of movies will cast actors just because they're really good looking or whatever, and these are both very good looking guys.
Yes.
We know that. But I think getting the right person for the role, I think, is really important when you have a character like Bodhi, because you have to have a man who is attractive, but it's not all about that attraction.
Yeah.
It's not about the fact he's just a good looking guy, because you're not just going to follow a really good looking guy just because he's good looking. You're going to follow him because he's actually, he speaks his truth, and it kind of connects to a truth that you also understand and appreciate. And I think the idea that there's more to life than just having that 9-to-5 and, just doing the daily grind. They think that Johnny is a lawyer. So, they're like, oh, well, obviously a lawyer generally works at a desk all the time, or you're working on cases. So, it's just a very appealing kind of thing to have someone tell you there's a different way to live your life that's more freeing and more, I don't know, where you get something more from your life than just sitting at a desk. And so, it's like, I can totally understand why Johnny would be kind of so enthralled by Bodhi, because Patrick Swayze is the sort of guy who, if he said, do this, you'd probably be like, yeah, okay.
You would.
Because he's got that charisma, he's got that presence. And like, people always criticize Keanu Reeves for being a bad actor, and I will always defend him and say that no, I think he chooses his roles very well. And it would be very easy, I think, to criticize Keanu Reeves for just like playing like the surfer dude, kind of character. And he does, because he plays Johnny, and Johnny plays the surfer dude character, and he does it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people kind of miss the point about Keanu Reeves, in that they think that he doesn't know how to act. But I kind of use this movie as an example of, no, actually he does, because he's kind of smart enough to know when he has to be kind of straight-laced Johnny,
Yeah.
playing. So he's like playing a character, playing a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite tough to do that, and and still be authentic as the character of Johnny, the FBI agent, as well as kind of this, hey dude, what's going on kind of character that people kind of know him for. They know him as Ted in Bill and Ted.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, he's not really done much else. So apart from a few minor roles, so I think he's really good in this movie, and I think that a lot of people do just kind of think that he's like a bit of a throwaway actor, like just get Keanu Reeves because he's ridiculously good looking, because he is. But I think there's a layer to his performance that I think a lot of people don't really recognize. But I think that's mostly because Patrick Swayze is so good in this movie. But I think they complement each other very well.
They really do. And I think Patrick Swayze, obviously, he is obviously in Dirty Dancing, and I absolutely adore him in that. And he outshines Baby, because obviously her acting isn't that great within the film. But I think when you've got some star potential, even if she was a really good actress, he's just star quality, and I think you can see that presence when he's on a screen. But I don't think Keanu Reeves does a bad performance in this at all.
No,
I quite
wouldn't
enjoy
say so.
him
No.
in like Matrix is amazing. Really, I really think he does a really good
obviously,
performance.
a lot of people do the whoa like thing, and
I don't
that's
mind that.
the meme that keeps going round and round and round, thinking that's all he does, and that the way he delivers that, his delivery of lines of that is oh, he must just be really bad. But the only thing I can think of really that's a bit in off the top of my head is that when he's in the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh no, he's great in Dracula. I mean, look, the thing is, I will concede he's not the best in Dracula. But at that point, because Dracula wasn't long after this, and he'd basically done movie after movie after movie, and to his credit, I think he was trying to do different things, and he was trying to like open his scope, and obviously doing something like Dracula, which was so lavish and beautiful and serious. I mean, the costume work in that movie is incredible. The the practical effects are beautiful.
Sure, yeah.
I will always go to bat for Dracula because I think it's great. But I think he does his best in a role that's very thankless in Dracula, because Jonathan Harker's not a particularly interesting character. No one cares about Jonathan Harker. So yeah, I will always defend Keanu because it's my job.
That's fine.
But no, but I definitely think if anyone kind of says, what's a great Keanu Reeves movie, I think Point Break has to be kind of up there, because I genuinely do think he's terrific in this movie.
No, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I can't go. I wasn't go. Oh, yeah. No, you've really not selling me on this. Your role in this at all. No, I think he plays it, like I say, like that extra level. Actually, thinking about it, the fact that he's acting and then acting as a different person entirely to blend in with these people to get the job done. Really, yeah, it's a good way to look at that as well, sort of like levels.
And I think for Johnny's character, he is acting as a surfer dude, but initially I think he gets to a point of where he gets sucked into that lifestyle, and then like when you lie, or you tell your friend a lie, and then you start to believe that lie is true, and then it kind of emerges into your life somehow, and because you've elaborated so much, you actually believe it yourself. And I think that's kind of how Johnny is within this, like, because once he gets that relationship with Tyler, he's gone in too deep into this now, and he actually wants to be a part of that friendship group. He's spent so much time with them and built them relationships that I think for him at the end, he's very much emotionally driven into this. Like, even how he lets Bodhi off, really. Like, obviously, he's got him in cuffs. We have, like, a little bit of a scramble on the beach. but it's kind of like freeing an animal in a sense, the way that he does it, because he knows that that wave will take him and it will kill Bodhi, and he'll be free as well of Bodhi. But instead of caging him, and it's kind of like any animal, you don't want to put them in a cage, and that's what you kind of see Bodhi as, a free spirit. And even that was a bit bittersweet, seeing Bodhi kind of go into the water knowing that's the last time you're going to see him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how he would have wanted to.
Yeah, because he's waited his whole life essentially to have that experience and everything.
Yeah.
But back to the fact that we said about, believe in a lie for so long, but the fact that obviously that Tyler was like very much invested in romantically with Johnny at that point, and then she got really understandably annoyed, like, oh, you're an FBI agent, like, was it even true about your parents and everything like that? And he's a bit like, and it's like, oh, I can't believe it. It's like, oh, you do feel like that really hurts him, and really feel for Johnny at that point, because it's like, you'd broken the trust of almost everybody, really. Even the people he works with and all that kind of stuff. And there's multiple times throughout the film where it's like, oh, you've messed up our sting that we've been doing for 3 months or whatever, and it's like, that wasn't even the right person, what are you doing, kind of thing. It's like, oh, you never get a break, really. It's really frustrating for him as a character. You just want to see him succeed in some capacity. But it almost feels like throughout he starts off like, oh yeah, fresh face and everything, but then he has moments where he's like, oh yeah, he's getting involved with the people and they appreciate him and all that stuff, but at the same time his work life isn't perfect, and even by the end it's kind of like, oh, why'd you let him get away type of thing. And it's like, well, I don't really care about this anymore, I've been working too.
He does a full circle, because he kind of comes to how his partner felt at the end, where he was like, oh, just let him go, kind of let him be a free bird, but also I'm done with this FBI stuff now. It's taken too much of a strain on me personally that I want to kind of hand my badge into the sea as well. And I think that kind of aspect, when he was like, fresh face baby, we can accomplish anything, to actually the job has worn him down over time.
Yeah, and you can understand it really if you think about it. If you think about what it would take to be an undercover agent, the fact that you have to lie constantly, you form relationships and bonds with people in basically to sell them out, to get people arrested, to get evidence against people. It must be a really difficult job, because it's like, then you start questioning in your mind, was this relationship with this person real, or was it fabricated on my side? Was it fabricated on their side? And that must really mess with your head. So you can completely understand the end of the movie when Johnny is like, I'm done. Because, he had this experience with these people that he formed genuine bonds with. But then surely they would then question his commitment to, their friendship. And Johnny would as well. Because is it real, or is it all just fake? So, yeah, I think it kind of asks a lot of questions about the sort of things that an undercover officer might actually have to go through. And like you say, you start out, you're fresh-faced, you're like, yeah, let's do this, I'm really excited. And then by the end, you're so jaded and kind of corrupted by that system that it's like, that's the system that Bodhi was so against. So maybe Bodhi was right the whole time to kind of be against that system, because all that system does is continually corrupt people. So, and that's exactly what happened with Johnny. So that's why it's such a great movie, because it makes you actually sit and think. It's not just an action movie for the sake of an action movie. It's an action movie with genuine kind of thought and heart and consequence behind it. And that's why I love it, I think.
I 100% agree with you. I think that's the one thing when I would definitely actually go back to this. And I think it is because it's not just an action film with it being really, really action-packed. It's got a really good storyline. You actually care. And the person who's directed it cares. And I think you can feel that with how they portray the characters, how they do the shots. I really do wish, because we've got quite a decent TV, I do think the DVD quality really, I was like, I would love to see that wave shot in a better kind of...
Well, might have to get it in if the fact that you really like the film so much, you might have to be like, well, wait for it to come down in price, maybe if it's getting in
But in 4K.
yeah. If that's the only way to see it,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it will. I feel like, I don't know, like say, like it shocks me that it isn't more readily available to people in this day and age.
Yeah.
That does surprise me because of how strong of a film it is.
It's an interesting one because I think it's not necessarily the film. If you were looking for a 90s action flick, might not necessarily be the number one thing that people would think about. And I
No,
think
I guess.
when it comes to streaming services, I know that it was definitely on streaming a couple of years ago because I remember watching it a couple of years ago on, I think it was on Now TV or something like that. So it has been on streaming. It whether it comes back, I would imagine it would come back. I'm surprised it's not on Netflix, to be honest, because it's a very Netflix movie. Like it feels like something that Netflix would want, but it might just be like a rights issue or something like that.
It normally is with these things. Like, oh well, what where we're going to host this? Who's going to pay? What studio's going to pay out for that? And this is what kind of annoys me about. So even with getting discs, sometimes like, oh, they won't release certain things because, oh well, that studio's got hold of that film because it's produced by them or whatever. It's so annoying how these companies have to just bicker and think about, like, it's like the off top of it, but that Spider-Man is almost exclusively separate from the other Marvel films and all that kind of stuff, and it's a bit like, yeah.
It's all your legalities, isn't it?
Yeah,
because they know. I don't know. Yes. Anyway.
It's frustrating, but we both bought secondhand copies of it. And to be honest, it's one of those movies that I wish I'd bought a long time ago. So I'm glad that we've done this, so that it gave me an excuse to actually go out and buy Point Break. But I do agree with you, Soph. I think it would look incredible in 4K with those waves and the skydiving shots. The only thing is, I feel like watching it in 4K, I think the stunt people would be very obvious because there's a lot of face shots. And unless it's the actual actor, I feel like it would be very obvious that it's not the actor in 4K. But the waves, I mean, it's just such an incredibly well shot movie. The fact that the camera's not, bobbing up and down constantly is incredible. Yeah. I honestly, I can't say enough great things about this movie. I think it's one of those that Kathryn Bigalow, she obviously went on to win an Oscar for The Hurt Locker. And so, I think she's still only one of 2 female directors that's ever won an Oscar for directing. So female directors are generally quite rare, especially kind of in this genre. And I feel like, where is all of the rest of Kathryn Bigelow's stuff? I know she did Zero Dark 30, which was also very good, but I feel like she should be a prolific director. Like, she should be making more stuff, and she should be making more stuff like this because clearly she's very good at it. And so let's bring back Kathryn Bigelow. let's get her to do more stuff because I think she's great, and we need more women doing movies like this, clearly.
Yeah.
Because they obviously bring something different to the table.
I think that's it, because especially from a male perspective, example, I know obviously we've definitely got eye candy, and that does lure us in a little bit more. But for me, I'm not really a big action-packed person, and I really enjoyed this film. And just for you, Paul, even though obviously we've got eye candy, you'd still say this would outshine any other kind of like action you would?
No, absolutely. Like I say, the fact that certainly coming back to it, and after all these years later, when I've watched it a couple of times in the past, and I feel like it's an age thing, getting more appreciation, especially when it comes to cinematography. The way that a film is shot now, I'm more engrossed with that, and also, like I say, like if it's a good written characters that work and bond, and you kind of feel for them, then that's fantastic. That really like bumps up the marks of whether a film has that kind of like rewatchability. Like I say, like there's plenty of action films that these days, and you're like, oh, you just watch it, like, I never want to see that again because there was nothing of interest really. You kind of just like, there's a bit of time to fill, and that was that. Plenty of these shows on Netflix, the films on Netflix that do that. But
I think this has got rewatchable value because, like, for me coming in first of all watching this the first time, wishing it wasn't Bodhi that was the bad guy, Now it'd be interesting rewatching it a second time to see if I've missed any clues that actually, yes, Sophie, it really is obviously him. And I think that's where it's got that kind of second watch appeal, and then you kind of find other little bits that you weren't aware of rewatching it. I think you will get to that point where it is like, oh, I didn't see that last time, and oh, that's where actually, yeah, really we should have known it were Bodhi at this point. And I think that's why I'm intrigued within the film, and I think that's always good when you can actually go back. Because with an action film, I think once you've seen it, it's one of those hard things to kind of rewatch. If it's like a one and done and you can kind of predict what's going to happen anyways, then would you really want to rewatch it unless you just really like that genre? I'm not sure. Whereas this, I think you would see extra bits.
Yeah, because it's a character study at the end of the day. It's more than just a standard action movie. It's about these characters and about the relationships between these characters. And in a way, it's kind of sad because poor Tyler kind of gets sidelined a little bit.
Yeah.
And Laurie Petty is really great. Like I've never disliked anything Laurie Petty has ever done, but I just feel like her character is kind of shoved to the side a little bit, and she's kind of damseled at the end.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's because like you're so invested in Johnny and Bodhi and their relationship. And I do think it is one of those movies that you can rewatch, because I think when you do rewatch it, I think you will see new bits of information, new clues and stuff like that. And I think it's one of those that is endlessly rewatchable, really. And if you think about it, Point Break is, you know, the ongoing legacy of Point Break really is the fact that so many movies now essentially pay homage to Point Break. And I think that's kind of the clue as to how well your movie is done, is when a movie like Hot Fuzz comes out, and Hot Fuzz obviously paid homage to a lot of cop movies, you know, Bad Boys 2, you know, action movies, all of that sort of thing. But it very affectionately paid tribute to Point Break, with the fact that, you know, Nick Frost's character couldn't, well, obviously he says about, you know, Point Break or Bad Boys 2.
Yeah.
And then it's the idea that he couldn't shoot, and so he just like, you know, fires in the air.
Yeah, in the air. Yeah.
That it's just so synonymous now with the idea that you can't shoot someone, so you fire in the air.
Yeah.
And there is nothing more lovely, I think, than when another movie pays affectionate homage to a movie that came before it and shows how much love it has, not just for the genre, but for that movie specifically. And I think that was like the ultimate expression of love for Point Break, was the fact that Hot Fuzz came along and decided to, you know, really pay tribute to it, which is great. And, you know, even like the character work in Hot Fuzz is very reminiscent to Point Break. It's one of those movies that I feel like, well, I was going to say it can't be remade, but it has.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
I mean, I feel like maybe now I should watch the remake just to kind of see if it really is genuinely bad, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the thing, and it's from the synopsis, it reads exactly the same, really.
Who are his main leads? Like, let's see, they're not as good looking.
Yeah.
They're really not.
Well, that's definitely not going to watch it now. I mean, if they're not good looking, then what's the point?
Johnny's character's all right. Luke
Bracey
Gracie.
and Edgar Ramirez is Bodhi.
He's got a very chiseled
Jawline.
jawline, but nothing compared to
Yeah.
Swayze. I mean,
Yeah, it's not selling me, I'll be honest.
No, maybe leave it at that. And I think we'll, I say, unless you've got anything else to say, we can go to the scoring, I think.
I'm just quickly going through my notes, because I made quite a few notes about this movie, and I just want to make sure that I think I've covered everything. Yeah, it's basically just Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze are fit. 500 pounds. That's my note. That's not really my note. So is my note. But yeah, it's no, I think we can go over to, we can move on if you want. Just to let you know that Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves are fit.
yes.
Cool.
Just
Noted. Yeah.
And do you agree, Paul, as a man? Yes.
Yeah, I'll echo that, I suppose. So, obviously, as you are the guest, we normally throw the first scoring to them, and
You mean we just throw them under the bus, Paul? Really, and like You join us. We're going to put you in the deep end and you can decide.
So what would be your score for Point Break?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, I've not really given it much consideration, so I'm just going to go with the score that just kind of rolls off the top of my head, and that would be a 10 out of 10, because I love this movie and I think it's great. And more movies should be made like it, and I wish more movies were made like it, to be honest. Yeah, there's really not much to fault with this movie, but I feel like even if there is, it's how the movie makes you feel and how much joy you get out of that movie. And I get so much joy out of watching this movie, and I really could watch it again and again and again. So to me, that's a 10 out of 10 movie. And everyone's really good looking in it, which obviously also helps.
Is it me now?
Here's you now.
So me and you have been talking about this, haven't we? And we normally don't. We're really good and we kind of hold as a surprise. And I was like, what are you thinking? Like, and I think it was last night, wasn't it? We were kind of gauging.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've changed my mind yet again. Because actually talking about it, there's certain things I haven't even considered. Like when Em said, oh, the camera, like the photography and the cinematography of being, bobbing up on a wave, or like the shots and everything and how it was done. Hadn't even broken it down to that aspect of thinking, how is this actually fully filmed? And I always think that then can impact my score, because it's one of those where you're actually not just taking what you're watching, you're unpicking it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that works. Also, I have to give it extra points just for the fact that, it's got Patrick Swayze in it and Keanu Reeves, so that helps a lot. So,
Sure it does, yeah.
It does. It really does. So I think for me, it's going to be. I don't know what's holding it back for me to 10, but I think it's a really strong 9. And I don't know if that's just because it's my first watch that it's not got there fully yet. Mm-hmm. Possibly that's how I'm feeling. Over to you.
I'm not far behind you, sort of now. Thinking on it as well, like I say, like definitely something I would watch again, and I can't believe it's. I'm a bit annoyed, like obviously it's taken a while to come back around to watching this, but I'm kind of I'm glad we've covered it on the podcast, and obviously like you've had, it's like held up highly in your eyes for that, and I'm going to put it at 8.5 because as I rewatchability, and as I like a solid action film, really, really, really solid, better than the typical ones that you would. That they churn out, and I think obviously down the line, I think it would even increase if I had. I don't know if the quality was not so much of a letdown, but I think like I just wish it would, like a higher quality in this day and age, like to have access to would be probably bump it up and set more appreciation, because not necessarily saying that the things would be like that's super obvious as a stuntman or anything like that, but I mean appreciation for the cinematography and of that would just be a bit very much like a spectacular element, next level above it really.
And I think as well it's just the kind of dullness of the film, which I think it would look a little bit more sharper and a bit more. I think it was like bit more grainier.
On the beach and it was really dark, and it's like kind of like I can't really make you guys out. Whereas, I think it would emphasize that with the deep blacks and everything like that. Obviously, and they would stand out a bit more. I think because of, especially if it was, I don't know if whether it was filmed on like 35mm or anything like that, like old, not like digital cameras or anything like that. I would have thought for back in the day it would have been.
I would think probably 35mm.
So yes, if anything is filmed in 35mm, it's normally better 4K transfer in after when they come around to doing those films. Because like things like Jaws and Jurassic Park and things like that are always is the case. But I
think you've made me a bit of a snob, to be fair, with TV like quality now. And I probably back in the day would not have even cared. Like what quality it would have been. And you've even turned my mum into it, because she came on and went, oh, that's a bit of a bad picture, isn't it? And I would never have noticed. I'd have just been like drooling over Patrick Swayze and been fine with it. So you've ruined my life.
So you see his wetsuits in 4K, that's what we need, isn't it?
Oh, that's fun. Well, I mean, I would say good scores across the board, definitely. This is a high recommend.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
If you can get your hands on a DVD copy, then please do. Yeah.
Or if you
Find it,
Yeah.
yeah.
if we've got close friends, Paul, you can let them borrow it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, sure.
so that they can see it.
Yeah. But they'll be like, ooh, what is this quality?
I think my girls one, like
Yeah.
I could give that to loads of girls and they would absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Like it is
Yeah.
solid for a woman to watch.
Mhm.
And it's nice watching it with a man as well and they enjoy it as well. So it's like an overall crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
Might not enjoy it as much as we do.
Maybe not. I mean, I think that, like you say, it's a cross genre, cross gender, cross sexuality appeal in this movie.
Yep.
Whether you're gay, straight, bi,
Yeah.
man, woman, non-binary, whatever, you will find something to love in this movie. So
100%.
100%.
I've really enjoyed having Em on this. I don't actually want to let her go. I feel like you've had like two Sophies by your side.
and he's loved it. Look at his face. He's like he's in his element right
Beaming.
now. He loves it.
You are. You're made up. To be fair, the way that she speaks about a film is like literally infatuating. You kind of just want to love because you're so passionate
This is
about
why
it.
I wanted to have her as a guest, because
Yeah.
she's so well versed in like the films and just has such passion for it that
She absorbs
yeah.
it. She's like, yeah, full. And I think as well, what is amazing is your love of the history, the background of it, and how you just bring a whole new perspective to how you view an actual film. So like your insight to it is really valuable.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind. I try my best. I feel like it's so easy to be kind of down on movies and go, oh well, I didn't like it. I thought it was crap. Like, you know, what a waste of a tenner to go to the cinema to see this. And to be honest, there's a lot of people out there who will just literally spend their lives poo-pooing movies that they don't like because they don't like the lead actor or they don't like the franchise or they don't. And it's like, life is too short. So like, let's appreciate movies for what they give us. And a lot of movies give us so much joy in many different respects. It may not be the best acted movie, it may not have the best script, but fundamentally, a group of people, hundreds, sometimes thousands of people come together to make that one movie and to do the best job that they possibly could on that movie. And there is always something to celebrate. There are some movies that I just out and out don't like, but but generally there is always something to celebrate about those movies. And the making of those movies, there's always a story. There's always something interesting. And for me, every single episode, I love it because I learn stuff. Because so in a way, it's just like sharing the knowledge that I have learned. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I want to tell people about this because it's just so, you have to have passion for things. And if you have passion for something, same with podcasting, if you have passion for podcasting and it's something that you genuinely love doing, then do it. And if you don't have passion for it, then don't do it. But as long as you have the passion for it and you have the drive for it, then people will appreciate that passion and they will realize that passion. And I think that's one of the things I love about you guys is I love listening to you because you have passion for each other, obviously, because I know you love each other. But, you know, you also have passion for sharing those movies.
Yeah.
You know, for Paul sharing those movies with you, Sophie, and like, you know, talking about the movies that, you know, you kind of sharing with each other, and that shared experience of watching movies is it's like fundamental human basics of like sharing stories at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And as also, and you know, if you obviously have a lot of passion in the podcast as well, so you know, it's the idea of like just people putting their passions out there is just something that really appeals to me. So so yeah, I think you're great, both of you, and I think just continue doing what you're doing because you're bringing a lot of joy to the world, just generally. And it's been a lot of joy for me to be on this podcast talking about Point Break. So
I'm so glad you had a good time.
Yeah, it's the best time.
Oh, great! That's fantastic. Yeah. So thank you for the kind words, and and thank you, obviously, once again for joining us on the episode. Lastly, before you go, just
No, she's not going. We're keeping her. Like, that's it.
before you go, would you like to remind people where they can find you on the socials?
Absolutely. So you can find Verbal Diorama wherever you find podcasts, obviously. And there's loads of episodes, so you'll find a movie that you love, I guarantee. And yeah, you can find me on all of the socials. So I'm still calling it Twitter. I refuse to call it what Musk says that we need to call it.
Yeah.
So it's still called Twitter.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically at Verbal Diorama on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, Letterboxd, pretty much all of them, because I'm a weirdo and I gave my podcast a weird name that no one else did. So all of the handles are available.
It's amazing.
So it's good.
Excellent. Yeah. No. So yeah. Thank you very much once again, Emma, for joining us, and take care.
Thank you for having me. It's been a joy. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and a big thank you to our special guest. If you want to check out some of our other episodes, you can do so by going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you get your podcasts from. And we'd really appreciate you leave us a 5-star review on any of those platforms as well. A big thank you to the Patrons for supporting the show, who are Mark from 100 Things to Learn from Film, Ben from Film Vloggers, Nico from the Good, the Bad, the Weird podcast, Chris Gren, who is cgren_draw on Instagram, Alex, who is desperately seeking username on Instagram, Shani, who is SDOG on Instagram, Danny Jones, or Jonesy, who is at WeightLossJonesy on Instagram, Emma, who is M_Hayton on Instagram, and of course Sophie's mum. And if you would like a shout out on each of our episodes and the opportunity to vote on what we watch once a month, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/SP Film Viewers to sign up for as little as £1 or $1.50 a month, and gets you those little perks and helps grow our little community. And lastly, if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok under the handle SP_Film Viewers. Once again, thank you very much for listening, and we will speak to you next time.